Monday, 7:30 p.m. in the UK. So thank you for joining me. Today we discuss propaganda, Kremlin and Vatniks. And basically the interview I published yesterday at 6 p.m. on Sunday with Pekka Kalionimi, the creator of Vatnik soup. So I'll remind you, if you haven't watched it, I'll just give you a few points what it was about, what's important to remember, because we don't want to be intoxicated with propaganda. We want to have clear mind. We have to be smart and clever and differ propaganda narratives, especially Kremlin narratives. So let me go through the main points. I just remind for people who's new, I'm Jenny Klochko, and this is my podcast, and this is Monday Q&A. This is what I introduced since New Year. So if you're interested and enjoyable for you, please join me on Mondays and Thursdays, 7:30 p.m. for live. So Pekka Kalionimi is Vatnik soup creator. He made quite a name, and his project Vatnik soup is amazing piece of work, very demanding about Kremlin narratives, about propaganda, and those people who spread Putin's ideas and Putin's thoughts around the world. So Pekka is watching all of them and making it into the war. After live, I post a link to Vatnik soup under this video and also to his ebook, which calls Vatnik soup. So if you haven't heard about this project or Pekka, please check it out. Fascinating project. So there are a few main points on our chat with Pekka, and first of all, of course, it's definition. And according to Pekka, Vatnik is the person who spreads, supports Kremlin propaganda or Kremlin viewpoints. Kremlin has the main big lie of thinking. So it's like anti-NATO, CSI, is responsible for revolutions around the world. If someone spreads and supports these views, Pekka considers them to be a Vatnik. So how we have to recognize who is pro-Kremlin propagandist or a Vatnik? What do they say? What do they do? Basically, they never speak about Russia. They never speak about Russian leadership. And if they start to speak about Russia, they can't really put any positive thing, can they? It's very difficult with everything what Putin's doing and his team. Also, these Vatniks, they decide, let's not talk about Russia, let's not talk about Kremlin, let's focus on demonizing Ukrainian leadership, something wrong with Zelensky, and this will be on and on and on. So it's quite tangible. So if you see those attributes, you're absolutely right. It's Kremlin, Vatniks, according to Pekka. And the main question, how to be protected, how to keep our brain away from propaganda or from Russian narratives. The recipe is quite simple. Pekka says we need to tell better stories. The Kremlin propagandists and the spin doctors, their stories are very compelling, very impressive. They are fascinated by conspiracy theories, and they create very good stories, so which are very effective in the West. These are the main points. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the chat, and I will try to see it and try to answer. Okay, let's have a look at the comments the viewers left under the interview. Okay, Michaels saying thanks Jenny, thanks Pekka, Slava Ukraini. Героям слава, Michael. Героям слава. Belle Ogilvy saying, I just found you. Oh, welcome to the podcast, Belle. And I'm happy that I did. I will be watching and supporting from Arizona, USA. Lots of love to Arizona from Ukraine and from London. Thank you, Belle. I hope you will enjoy and it will be very informative and interesting for you. Oh, hello, Helen. Hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to live. Thank you for joining. Um, oh, it's a high five flipper saying, if you consider 10% loss of your territory a win, you know why the leader of other space makes a good front page. But I think it is nothing personal. That's why even the hypocrite jellyfish goes. I think he's hinting about our that part of the conversation. Oh God. That part of the conversation where we were comparing Soviet invasion to Finland, and Finland did lose 10% of their territory. The problem for Soviet regime at that time, because the invasion happened in 1939, they actually didn't occupy Finland. Yes, they got some territory, but Finland was fighting. There were heroic people, the brave people, and the connotation, the underlying meaning of that. I thought, I had a feeling that Finland actually won, and Finnish people, they appreciate how they how brave they were, and they were standing, and Soviet Union, no matter how big was the country, no matter how big was the army, they didn't succeed what they wanted. So yes, unfortunately, it's happened to Finland. They lost 10% of the territory, but they maintained the freedom and the statehood, which is the big gain. So, okay. Trishka was saying, really looking forward to this conversation, so I can watch it live. It's okay, you can watch it anytime. This is the beauty of YouTube, and you can watch here and then coming back. So it's all good. No worries. Welcome to the podcast, because I don't remember I've seen this commentator, Trishka, before. Kaimin Hold was saying, very interesting topic. Thanks to Dick Dawson for recommending. Well, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for checking out and watching it. And thank you, Dick Dawson. Thank you for sharing and recommending it. And please, if you watched the interview or you find this topic interesting, please like, share, subscribe, and it will help a lot to grow my podcast and to grow our community. Also, I would like to remind you about the changes on this podcast channel since the new year. So, if before the new year I was posting an interview 7 o'clock on Sunday morning, and now I am publishing it at 6 o'clock in the evening on Sunday, same day, different time. And also, additionally, we have 2 lives. One live is on Monday, we just discussing the interview. And on Thursday, we're discussing the current events, affairs, and what happened. And hopefully, this Thursday, we will have a guest during my live, and we will discuss such a big achievement, accomplishment of Ukrainian International Legion and the documentary Summertime. If you haven't heard about it, please check the trailer on YouTube, and you will see those Americans and other foreigners who came to Ukraine to defend Ukrainian democracy, freedom, statehood, and this film about them. This film at the moment in cinema in Ukraine. I know that strategic communicators are going through negotiations with different streaming platforms for people abroad to watch it. I also seen the reviews from spectators, And I'll be honest with you, the more I read, because they're really exciting, the more I wanted to watch the film. I haven't watched it. If you're somehow in Ukraine, and if you're so lucky to go to cinema and watch it, and you previously was on my podcast, you will see some familiar faces. For example, one of the Legion fighters, Mari. Absolutely, it's like he's so positive. He's like a bright sunshine, and this person is risking everything on Ukrainian front line. Came from such far distance to defend Ukrainian people, and Ukraine appreciates him. He's got Ukrainian citizenship, and also he was awarded some award from President Zelensky. We talked about it in his interview on my podcast. Please check it out. I hope it will be interesting for you. Also, with Pekka, we touched such fascinating topic like Ukrainian politics and those people who could run Ukraine. And there's one person, he's worth attention. He was the head of president's office during presidency of Leonid Kuchma. And he's the best mate of Vladimir Putin. But luckily for Ukraine, he was unfortunate. He never had a chance to become presidential candidate. And now he was arrested and then he was exchanged. Of course, Vladimir Putin would exchange his mate and take him back to Moscow. Yeah, so if you like all those stuff, like official and official things about politics, if you're interested in about Ukraine, what's happening, what was the context, check our interview with Pekka. And even more, I recommend to check the wall of Vatniks, because there are new faces, old faces, and even old faces with the long stories. He keeps updated it. For example, Rinat Akhmetov, the richest man of Ukraine, and he's quite controversial personality, mysterious. He doesn't like doing any interviews, and there are lots of speculation about his past, how he's got his first money, how he became influential, how many friends accidentally died for him to go up the ladder of the hierarchy or the organization or the community, let's say, in 90s of people he was. Now, him being from Donetsk, from the east of Ukraine, and his company does a lot of charity, lots of help, assistance to people on different level, like on organizations and on sort of personal level. It's quite interesting to look, and he's on the wall. He's there, and Pekka, with his attention to details, with his interest, he had discovered and saved for people who are quite far from Ukraine, many interesting things. So coming back to your comments, there's one of my favorites. Tramflug, one of the most active viewers and commentator, and it's always interesting. He's very precise, and he's from Germany, and you can see how precise and exactly what he wants to say. So he commented with time code of the phrase, was saying, basically, he was saying that's the important part. We are in the West still have a lot to learn, and I hope Ukraine will help in doing so. They are the world's best experts in the field, after all. And he put the time code, which was 4153. It's referring to my question, how we should protect our brain and how we should understand and sort of like keep our critical thinking intact. And Pekka explains it's not easy. because it's one thing if the Vatniks or those people who spread in the propaganda were just Russians, and you just like, Russians, it's not that simple. No, we were discussing the most sort of known and famous people. For example, Elon Musk. Is he Vatnik or not? Because on one hand, Starlink's Elon Musk, the company, they basically did the revolution in this war, and they made possible this war, Russian war in Ukraine, so high technologically, and many absolutely unbelievable operations, successful operations, were possible just because they can use the Starlink. And when I was in the east, in Pokrovsk, in summer 2023, I think in one of my lives I posted videos where I was on the positions with the Ukrainian armed forces. And yes, they have Starlinks. Every unit has it and use it big time. But at the same time, what Elon Musk saying about Crimea, about President Zelensky, or memes he's reposting is quite shocking. And he actually fits their definition of Kremlin Vatniks. Look for more details on the interview, or for example, some British known people like Russell Brand or Nigel Farage, why they fit this definition of Vatnik, and why we have to be very careful listening to them. And yes, and I absolutely agree with Chamflug. It is more difficult to be aware of those things because propaganda is always mixed up with half truth or kind of thing. So it's more complicated and make it easier to believe or accept or digest and eventually support. So yes, now you know the time code. So if you're only interested how to protect your brain from Kremlin propaganda, go to the time code 4153 on our interview and listen what Becca had to say. And he's absolutely right that we have to say to tell better stories, and media literacy is an important thing, and education, and those things will keep our critical thinking alert. Yes, it's not a race. It's not going to be productive or end with result tomorrow. It's a long run. It's years and years and years, but it's worth it because look at Putin. He's the product of Soviet propaganda. Do you have this known fact that he wrote the article saying that the biggest tragedy of 20th century is the breakup of Soviet Union. It was awful political construction, and thank goodness it's broke because many countries gained their freedom and many people saved their lives. Soviet Union occupied 15 countries. Okay, 14. 15th was Russia itself. So it wasn't a good thing. It was the best thing what happened 20th century, but not according to Vladimir Putin. Because what? Because all his life was he was born into Soviet propaganda, lived it, spread it as a KGB operative, and that's his existence. That's his worldview. And of course, it's more difficult, more painful to recognize everything he believed, everything he protected. It was all wrong. It was all lie. And rather than keep pushing, spreading, and trying to restore Soviet Union. So, in order to prevent in the future appearance of these monsters like Vladimir Putin, try to protect yourself, educate yourself, and very much be aware how the propaganda is spread, and what kind of narratives they're trying to push through the community or country where you live, what kind of weaknesses they push in or weak points to make it work. For example, in my interview with Dr. Jade McGlynn, she was saying how on the occupied territories, they actually spreading such narrative like Ukraine doesn't care about you, Ukraine won't come back, don't fight, it doesn't make sense. It's just meekly obedient type people will get you far, or just don't resist. No, it's not good to have your own opinion. So this is specifically for people in the occupation. For the people on the Ukrainian territory, of course, they're trying to, through useful idiots or people who just love money so much, they spread in different narratives. They questioning legitimacy of Zelensky's government, or how corrupted country or not corrupted. There's a lot of other things, and I think it was last year there was an attempt to realize, sort of like to make work that Operation Maidan 3. If you check it out on Google, I'm sure the main English media or English language media were writing about it, because the defense intelligence informed about it, and they explained what kind of narratives we're going to use to make people protest or show their disagreement with the current Ukrainian government. So it's quite a dangerous thing for the future as well, and quite fascinating to research and understand, and especially when it comes to the references in the history to the Nazi Germany and so on, so forth. So let's have a look at the comments. What happened? I think I went through all of them, and I don't see. Okay. So thank you for joining me today. Just one thing I can promise you, I'll keep having more interviews and talking more about propaganda, because it's quite a vast field for research and a lot of aspects to uncover. And please join me on during lives on Monday 7:30 and Thursday 7:30 p.m. UK time. And please watch the interviews which I publish on Sunday 6 p.m. UK time. Thank you for joining, and have a great evening. Bye.